Hey, welcome back, students. In this video, I want to talk to you a little bit about physical changes. Now, physical changes are going to be the changes that you observe in a piece of matter when it's undergoing some kind of change in state that actually changes not so much the identity, but it actually changes, well, it actually goes through the following. It goes through a change in either the size, the shape, or the state. Okay, and we'll explore this here in a little bit. The main key difference here is when it actually goes through these changes in sizes and shape or state, there is no new substance that is formed. Okay, and what that means here, this specifically talks to the identity of the substance that you're exploring is not changed. This is going to be key for you to remember. So whenever you're observing physical changes, although these are going to be the things that are resulting from physical properties, that these are the ideas or the things that we're observing with our senses, when those changes occur, it's going to result in either a change in the size, so something gets bigger, smaller, or it's going to change the shape. One of the most common examples here is going to be when we have the example of water. Now, water is a very common example because water can either be a liquid or it can be a solid. And so here's an example. So if we take some water, and let's say that we have water in a container of some sort, and let's say that we put the water in here, and here's the water, and we apply a heat source to it, okay? So let's just say that we heat this up. Eventually what this water is going to become is it's going to actually produce gas particles, and so it goes from a liquid here in the container, it actually can go to a gas, okay? Now, if we actually started with this a little bit further and actually put ice cubes, then we would actually see here that we would go from a solid to a liquid to a gas. And so this moving from solid liquid to gas is a change in state. Well, one could also argue that if I had a very big piece of ice, let's say I had the piece of ice like this, and we actually apply the heat to it, over time, this piece of ice will eventually melt down into a smaller piece. And so what you tend to see here is you see is a change in size. And ultimately, when you start looking at this, this particular ice will eventually melt and it will become liquid. So the shape is going to change. So all three of these things happen with the example of water. And because of that, water is a very good example to use because every time that it's changing, whether it's going from a solid liquid to a gas, it does not matter because in the solid phase, it is still H2O. And when it goes into the liquid stage or the liquid phase, it is still H2O. And then when it goes into the gas phase, it is still H2O. So nothing has really changed there for the identity of the material, in this particular case, water. And because no new substance has been created, in this case, we still have water, irregardless of the state that it's in, this is going to be an example of a physical change. So let's look at a couple of other examples here. What if I were to kind of go through this and ask you, all right, so what about if I have the following? What if I said to you, what about we have an apple and we go ahead and cut this apple? Is this a physical change? Well, since you're starting off with an apple, and this is going to be my best example here of an apple, and right, there's an apple. If I were to go ahead and cut this apple down the middle, what I wind up having here is you're going to have one part of the apple there, and then you're still going to have the other part over here. But what's still going to remain is that this still is going to be an apple here. This is still a piece of apple there. All you've got is two pieces of the apple, but the identity is still the same. So cutting an apple is going to be an example of a physical change. Okay? All right, so here's another example. What if we look at grass, and specifically grass growing? Well, in this example, let's say that this is the ground here, and we've got the grass of such length. Let's say that these are grass particles here. Okay, and we'll say grass, and we're going to say case 1. So this is at the very beginning. We let a week go by, 2 weeks go by, and we let the grass grow. And let's say that at the end of the 2 weeks, the grass gets this big. So here is the grass case 2. And so what we tend to notice here is that here's the difference right here, this difference right here. This growing of grass, is this going to be a physical change or is this going to be a chemical change? Well, since in the first instance we had grass to begin with, and in the second instance we had grass, nothing's really changed except the size of the grass. This here is an example of a physical change. Okay? Had the grass turned into something else, say that you had grass and it mixed with something else and it turned into, I don't know, some other substance, not a grass, then that would be an example of a chemical change. But because this has only grown in size, the grass has grown in size, this is an example of a physical change. So hopefully this video has been helpful for you. If you haven't already done so, subscribe, keep watching, keep learning, and we'll see you in the next video.